Hello, everyone. For those of you I haven't met yet, my name is Ashley Blazina. I'm the DNR's Community Wildfire Preparedness Coordinator. COVID-19 has shown us the importance of resiliency, both in our homes and in our communities. As we all continue to keep our distance, loving and caring for each other in whatever capacity we can, we want to make sure that we continue to increase our resiliency as we move into wildfire season. Yes, we all have things we are unsure about in the months ahead. Fire response capabilities will be tested by COVID-19. So it is more important than ever that you, the residents of Washington, continue to play your part in prevention and preparedness. We need to keep in mind that community resiliency, just like fire adaptation, is a practice, not a project. So what, you may ask, does that mean? What does that look like when we are under quarantine or as we continue to follow social distancing mandates? We thought about that as well, and we've come up with a few different creative solutions. For the next few weeks, we'll be offering you, the residents of Washington, a series of different opportunities, videos, webinars, presentations, discussions, all geared towards you and increasing your community resiliency. So without further ado, we'd like to share a few of those opportunities. These won't work for all of you, but we also would like to share a few potential creative alternatives that you could use as a community to have it suit the purposes that you have and need to increase that resiliency. So I'm going to share my screen now and go over a few of those different options. All right. So let's take a look at what some of these are. So like I said, I'm going to go over a few of the different options in chronological order, and then go over some of the options that maybe don't have a time limit on them because you might not have, none of these might actually work for your particular community. So the first one is coming up pretty soon, and it's a great opportunity for folks who live in Western Washington as well as those that live in Eastern Washington, and especially good for those that have property on both sides of the state. So this event is going to be called Wildfires in Washington, Preparing Our Backyards. A lot of us are spending a lot more time in our backyards lately, and so how we can make sure that those efforts we're putting in are also increasing wildfire resiliency is key. The two people that are going to be leading this webinar are King Conservation District's Matthew Axe, who is the Wildfire Resiliency Coordinator, as well as Jason Emsley, who is a DNR Landowner Assistance Forester, as well as a member of the Kittitas Fire Adapted Communities Coalition. This event, which is an online webinar, is going to be on Thursday, April 30th, from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. If you're interested, please RSVP with me. My email address is right here in that circle, ashley.blazina@dnr.wa.gov. I'm going to share my email address quite a few times throughout this presentation, so if you don't catch it this first time, it will be in a lot of subsequent slides. I'm also going to be sending out an email to all of the different FireWise community leaders, and that will include my email as well. The next event, which is going to be on Wednesday, May 6th, is another webinar. And this is really centered around concerns around our collective lungs. A lot of us have family members or loved ones or neighbors who have some limited lung capacity, or maybe one of the at-risk populations for COVID-19. And more often than not, we're finding that those at-risk community members are also at higher risk for some of the issues surrounding smoke during wildfire season. So how do we make sure that we keep our capacity for helping those neighbors, those loved ones, continuing to keep resources at a good level for them to support them throughout wildfire season? Well, a few experts are going to give us some great advice on that very topic. So we have 4 experts. We have Chris Ray from the Confederated Tribes of the Colville Reservation. We have Caitlin Kelly from the Department of Health. We also have Gabe Baez from DNR, who's our safety officer, as well as Carolyn Kelly, who's also from DNR, who's our smoke management field coordinator. These experts are going to have a lot of great advice, so I highly recommend you tune in to their conversation. That's going to be on Wednesday, May 6th from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Again, please RSVP with me for this event at ashley.blazina@dnr.wa.gov. Let's see. All right. So one of the main things that we see throughout wildfire season are burns that start accidentally. And often these are occurring due to pile burns that get out of hand. With a lot of you now accumulating quite a bit of backyard debris, you may have been weeding quite a bit, perhaps you did a lot of pruning, and now you're not sure what to do with those extra sticks and branches. Burning could be a good option, but you need to make sure that you're doing it appropriately. We have 2 experts, Miles Reed and Charlie Burns, both of DNR, who are stationed out of our South Puget Sound region, who are going to give us some tips and tricks on how to build pile burns appropriately. They're also going to explain the difference between a rule burn and a pile burn, what you need to do before and after you burn, and additional risk factors to really be looking out for and considering before you start a burn. A burn may not be the best option. This video is also going to include members of the Greenwater Fire District who have very graciously are willing to host this event. This is going to be released. This is going to be a video. This is something you as a community could watch as individual households and perhaps come together to discuss it at a later date. But the release date for this video is going to be Wednesday, May 20th. I highly recommend watching it. Both Miles and Charlie are very charismatic on camera. All right. Going along with the gardening, a lot of you are spending more time in your yards. So how do we make these efforts more resilient? How do we make them wildfire friendly? We're going to have a conversation with Ciscoe and potentially Hillary Franz, depending, might just be me, depending on her availability. She is a busy lady. But Ciscoe Morris, who many of you guys are probably familiar with, he's a local celebrity. Talking with him, he's an all-around cool guy as well. Just a joy to talk to and listen to, and quite a gardening expert. So he's going to be sharing some of his many years of wisdom on how to make our yards a little more wildfire resilient. The release date for this is to be determined, but we will be following up with the exact date and time for when that will be released. One other resource I just wanted to point all of you to, because a lot of you have more time at home and you have time to gain some expertise in areas that are related to wildfire resiliency. The Kittitas Fire Adapted Communities Coalition has put together an extraordinary resource for community members to really increase that resiliency. I'm sharing just a few screenshots from some of their video library that I think would be extremely helpful for all of you. So we have Living with Wildfire, a Defensible Space Guide, which actually features Jason Emsley, who is the landowner assistance forester who will be sharing his expertise at the April 30th webinar. There's a Ready, Set, Go video, which goes over some of the specifics of evacuation and planning. What do you really need to consider when you're developing that plan for what to do when a wildfire does occur? And then finally, another one of my favorite videos is Building a Wildlife and Wildfire Resilient Forest. And this is hosted by Ken Bevis, who is our DNR wildlife biologist. Again, a very charismatic speaker, and sharing some of the things that you can do to make your yard wildfire resilient, but also wildlife friendly. There are ways where both different needs or wants can be expressed in your yard, in your backyard. I've added the YouTube channel URL below on this particular slide, but if you type into Google Kittitas Fire Adapted Communities Coalition, or just go to YouTube and type Kittitas Fire Adapted Communities Coalition, you should be able to get to their channel and find these great videos. Again, I highly recommend them. They're very well done. A great resource for anyone in Washington, but especially in Kittitas County. So one particular opportunity here is after a few of your community members watch a video or take part in a webinar, or just watch the webinar after they will be recorded, and so you can watch it if your particular schedule doesn't coordinate with the timeline. You can watch the video and then discuss your application of those particular tips and tricks in your community. So if you were to watch the Ready, Set, Go video, you may be able to then develop a community evacuation plan. If you're watching the webinar with Ciscoe, perhaps you can then develop some ideas for how to make your community more wildfire resilient. Other opportunities for a community coffee chat are to invite a local expert. So it could be that everyone in your community sets a date and time to watch some videos, and then you set up a Zoom conference or a FaceTime conference or whatever platform really makes sense for you. And then you invite a local expert to also be part of that conversation. A few of the experts that we thought might be helpful could be a local fire district personnel. They might be able to help you plan for that community evacuation plan. A local landscaping expert to be part of that conversation on how to make your landscaping more wildfire resilient in your particular community. A public health official, maybe even an insurance representative. Another opportunity we just wanted to provide and give different communities who want to hold some of these, maybe want to hold these community coffee chats, is a technical assistance or facilitation. So 2 DNR employees, myself included, are willing to help you out in terms of being a moderator for this community discussion. You have to let us know when you're scheduling this for, and we can help out with the technical aspects of that. It will be limited in time. We can only do about an hour or so for these particular discussions. Can't do much longer due to demand. But for Western Washington, the moderator for this will be me. In Eastern Washington, it will be Guy Gifford, who is our long-term landowner assistance forester. So there's a few ideas, but this may not work for your community. You may say, oh no, we already have our evacuation plan. We have a lot of the tips and tricks that are going to be shared in those videos. We have them down pat. So we need something else. Here's a few additional ideas that were cobbled together from a few different sources, especially different fire adapted communities throughout the Western United States. So one particular idea is to have a landscaping contest. Have some before and after pictures. Do befores of what needs to be done and then an after. Send them all to one particular Google Drive in your community, one particular folder. Share them in a Dropbox, and then have everyone in your community decide who did the best job. There can be a prize. There doesn't have to be, but it's a good way to add a bit of competition to your Preparedness Day and your Wildfire Awareness Month. Another opportunity is an idea that Fire Adapted Communities Colorado, or Fire Adapted Colorado, excuse me, came up with was Dispersed good deeds. I really like this. It's the idea that there's going to be community members who can't necessarily do some of this work. Maybe they're ill during quarantine. Maybe they are a higher part of one of the high risk populations and aren't able to do this work either during quarantine or otherwise. Disperse good deeds is the idea that we can help out these neighbors by providing some of these services, such as mowing a lawn or blowing out sticks and leaves in areas where they are close to a house, really in that 5-foot zone that needs to be fuel free. And we don't necessarily have to come in contact with each other. We can still help our neighbors. We don't necessarily have to be hugging them or shaking their hands while we do it, but we can still help each other around our houses. So picking out a few neighbors in your community who you want to provide some of these dispersed good deeds for. Other opportunities are to set on one goal that you're going to have throughout your community and have as many households as possible do this one activity. So we came up with a few because, like, again, this is a practice, not a project. And so maybe your community decides you want to do a few of these options to really tackle a few aspects of wildfire resiliency across the board in your community. So the first one could be primetime pruning. Instead of watching those primetime shows, a lot of us are watching things on Netflix throughout the day. Maybe at 7 or 8 p.m. instead, we decide to go out, well, 7, probably so you're not hitting too much of dusk, but doing some pruning right after dinner. Pruning off some of those lower limbs or those branches that are a little too close to the house or don't provide enough clearance from the ground, those surface fuels. Maybe you want to do a en masse remeshing event. There's probably some different vents or areas underneath decks or porches that really need some improvements or need some mesh replaced. Maybe you only have 1/4 inch mesh and you really need to replace it with the 1/8 inch mesh. If everyone's doing it on the same day, it can be a good incentive. You might be able to see your neighbors outside, and then you can also get some good work done on keeping embers out of your house and protecting it from that potential threat. Evacuation is for everyone. Set a day and have every household in your community really plan out what your evacuation routes are going to be. Think about it from every room in your house. Where's the primary escape route? Where's the secondary? Who is going to be responsible for what? What are the primary considerations and concerns depending on what time of day or year, when in the fire season? What other activities are going to really be key in your household at that particular point in time? Just going through all of the different alternatives and having every member, every household in your community share these plans so that if additional assistance is needed. You have neighbors who have that knowledge to help emergency personnel if the time comes. Go bag bonanza. Perhaps you set up a day or a time when everyone really either refills or restocks or starts to build out their own go bags. So these are the bags that you're going to have to take when you do have to, if you have to go into evacuation mode during wildfire. So going over what those contents really need to be, what are the things that you might not have prepared now that you'll need to prepare in the next few months. What are some things that might be easy to overlook if you are in a high stress situation? And finally, one last idea is clear the litter by lunch. There's often a lot of plant material, leaves, conifer needles, branches, sticks, other debris around the house that really builds up in those winter months. So setting aside a morning to clear out those gutters, those nooks and crannies around your house that these different fuels or potential fuels have accumulated is going to be huge. Try to have it done by lunch so that everyone in your community can enjoy a nice lunch and satisfaction of having a much cleaner and more wildfire resilient house. Setting up one particular day to do this can really be a good incentive to get everyone out. Try to pick a day where it's nice, a nice morning. Maybe you can then have lunch on your nice clear deck or porch or under your clean gutters. Whatever you decide, we'd love to hear about it. Please share your plans with us. Again, here's my email, ashley.blazina@gmail.com. We'd really like you to tell us what you're up to, what your alternatives have been. We know everyone's thinking about this more creatively now, so whatever you've decided, we want to know. If it's particularly good, we might ask if we can share it with the larger population of Washington. We're all in this together, even into wildfire season. Finally, when you are sharing, and if you are particularly into social media, we'd love it if you use some of these hashtags. A lot of our content we've decided is going to be posted on Wednesdays. So we've come up with the hashtag Wildfire Wednesdays. Please look at our different DNR social media profiles, Twitter, Facebook. We want to be sharing, we'll be sharing our different tips and tricks and additional videos and materials, including a lot of really cool infographics on those Wildfire Wednesdays. And we'd love it if you shared some of your different activities on Wednesdays as well. Wildfire Prep Day. This is a hashtag that's going to be used nationwide. So we'd love if you could use it too. Let's get Washington to have a really big presence with that particular hashtag. Finally, we have 2 additional. Flatten the flames. While we're trying to flatten the curve with wildfire resiliency work, we can also help to flatten the flames, prevent some of them from happening, and through preparedness, make sure that these wildfires aren't nearly as destructive as they could potentially be. By our final one, stay home, stay prepared. We all have a lot more time at home. If we could use some of this time to increase our preparedness, we're all going to be in much better shape when wildfire season really kicks into gear. It's already started, but it will continue to progress throughout the summer and into the fall. If we're all staying prepared, if we're all helping with this preparedness, we're going to be in a much better place by winter 2020. And with that, I just want to say thank you all. I appreciate all of your work. DNR appreciates all of your work. And thank you all for staying home. Please stay safe, stay healthy. And in the meantime, good luck.